Most people think the reason others don't listen to them is confidence. They assume they need to speak louder, sound smarter, or dominate conversations. But in reality, people don't ignore you because you're quiet. They ignore you because your message doesn't trigger attention. Human attention is selective. Your brain filters thousands of signals every minute. It automatically ignores anything that feels predictable, irrelevant, or low priority. So when people stop listening, it's not always about you. It's about how the brain processes information. To understand how to make people listen, you need to understand one psychological rule. Attention comes before persuasion. If someone is not mentally engaged, nothing you say will matter. The first key to getting people to listen is breaking expectation. The brain pays attention to contrast. Unexpected tone, expected phrasing, unexpected questions. For example, instead of starting a conversation with long explanations, you begin with something that creates curiosity. A question, surprising statement, short observation. This interrupts automatic filtering. The brain shifts from passive listening to active curiosity. Another powerful psychological tool is clarity. People lose attention when communication becomes complicated. When sentences are too long or ideas are vague, the brain has to work harder to process them. And when processing becomes difficult, attention drops. Clear ideas hold attention longer. Short sentences, direct language, simple explanations. The most persuasive communicators are rarely the most complicated speakers. They are the clearest. Another factor that affects whether people listen to you is perceived authority. Authority doesn't always mean status. It often comes from certainty. When someone speaks with hesitation, fillers, or constant self-correction, the brain interprets uncertainty. And uncertainty reduces trust. But certainty does not mean arrogance. It means expressing your thoughts calmly and directly. Pauses help. Speaking slightly slower helps. Confidence in communication often comes from pace, not volume. There is also a principle called the primacy effect. Psychology shows that people remember the beginning of information more than the middle. This means the first sentence you say carries disproportionate influence. If your opening is weak, people mentally disengage early. But if your opening creates curiosity or relevance, attention increases. Another powerful method is emotional relevance. People listen when they feel something is connected to them. If your words remain abstract, attention fades. But when you connect ideas to personal experience, the brain engages more deeply. For example, instead of explaining a concept in theory, you relate it to a situation the listener recognizes. This activates empathy and identification. And identification keeps people mentally present. There is also the power of storytelling. Humans evolved to understand stories. Stories organize information into sequences of cause and effect. When you explain something as a story rather than isolated facts, the brain processes it more easily. Stories also trigger emotional engagement. And emotional engagement strengthens memory. Another reason people stop listening is information overload. When too many ideas appear at once, the brain struggles to prioritize, so attention declines. Good communicators reduce complexity. They present one idea clearly before moving to the next. This keeps cognitive load manageable. Another subtle factor is listening itself. People listen more to those who listen to them. When someone feels heard, their brain becomes more receptive. Mirroring, acknowledging points, and asking follow-up questions create conversational balance. This builds trust. Trust increases attention. There's also something called conversational energy. Conversations are not just about information, they're about rhythm. If someone speaks in a monotone way, with no variation, the brain begins to predict the pattern. Predictability reduces stimulation, but when tone changes, pauses appear, or emphasis shifts, attention renews. Small variations maintain engagement. Another important factor is perceived value. The brain constantly evaluates whether information is useful. If people sense that what you re-saying will benefit them, even indirectly, they listen longer. But if the conversation feels irrelevant to their interests or problems, attention fades. Good communicators frame their ideas around the listener's perspective. Instead of focusing on what they want to say, they focus on what the other person might want to hear. This subtle shift changes everything. Finally, timing matters. People are less receptive when they are stressed, distracted, or emotionally overloaded. In those moments, even important messages may be ignored. Good communication includes choosing the right moment. Attention is not just created through words, it is created through context. The truth is, getting people to listen is not about dominating conversations, it is about guiding attention, breaking expectation, speaking clearly, creating relevance, and respecting the natural limits of human focus. When you align with how the brain processes information, people listen naturally. It's not because you forced their attention, but because you earned it.